Welcome everybody to our broadcast for the first part of 2018. My name's Johnny Palmer and you're joining us for the start of what's set to be a bit of a motorsport festival to kick off year and season 2018. We're here in Dubai at the Dubai Autodrome for obviously the latest running of the 24 Hours of Dubai, but we're going to be treated this weekend, and we are still a full 7 days away from the 24 Hours, or 6 days away from the 24 Hours next weekend. We're treated to three 3-hour races for the 2018 Proto Series. So cars already out onto track. This is not a race as such, it is a qualifying session to set a grid for the first race of the weekend, which takes place today, by the way, a little later on at 3 p.m. local time. It'll be 3 through till 6 o'clock, and depending on where you are around the world, obviously you'll need to alter your clocks, but we are 4 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. So GMT +4, and you can do the relevant calculations wherever you are enjoying our coverage this weekend. My name's Johnny Palmer, part of the Radio Show Limited team. Alongside me is Joe Bradley, and down in the pit lane is Nick Damon. So just the three of us to kick things off. We've been given the responsibility to look after the opening part of a broadcast, and steadily through the week our team will grow in numbers. We've John Hindhoff en route later on in the week. He's busy in Florida at the moment, and by the end of the week we'll also be joined by Bruce Jones and Paul Truswell to give you the full 24H series treatment. But Joe Bradley, cars already out onto track. One thing we noticed during our little taxi rides yesterday is that the track not got a great deal of pickup obviously laid down, because it won't have been used for several days, if not weeks. So that's good in terms of tyre wear, but it's not good in terms of grip, I suppose. And this is a little bit of a launch into not quite the unknown, but just working out what the track's going to do over the next hour or so.
It's become a bit of a tradition to kick off the season the past few years here in Dubai, and we're starting even earlier in 2018 with our three-hour prototype races. More of that later, as you said, Johnny. And yeah, there's a reason why we come to Dubai in January, and it's the 26 degrees ambient temperature and perfect track conditions. I say perfect, they soon will be. A green track in the Middle East here at Dubai means not so much debris on the track, other than a very dusty and sandy track. Obviously in the Middle East, we're in the middle of the Arabian Desert here on the Arabian Peninsula, and the track has got a cover of and a layer of sand that we are in the process of getting rid of. We've already had free practice sessions for these cars, and this is the first, as you said, Johnny, the first 1 hour qualifying session, which will form the grid for our 8-car field.
We'll take you through the runners and riders in just a moment. There are various drivers that will need to be cycled through as well, the 8 different cars across 3 different classes. But before we touch on the entry in detail, here's Nick Damon. Happy New Year, Nick.
Happy New Year to you, Johnny, and to the whole of the Radio Le Mans universe and the Creventic world out there in YouTube land. Hello, everyone. It's lovely. Look how sunny it is. Marvellous. So if you're tucked up cold in the UK, or it's late at night and minus 400 degrees in Wisconsin, it's a tough life. Anyway, yes, we have got the 8 cars are... Most of them are out. I think the 2 CN machines haven't gone yet, but they are getting ready for this hour of qualifying. Don't forget the cars had 2 hours of free practice earlier, so they're nicely warmed up, as are the drivers. Got 1 hour to set a time, and of course we then have the race itself starting at 3 p.m. local time, and we'll cover those 3 hours, but with a bit of a grid walk beforehand, which could be interesting. But yeah, what a lovely day. What a lovely place. What can you say? It's lovely.
Not a lot more than that. I think you've covered all bases, frankly. There's Nick Damon, just the first of several comments and reports that we'll be getting from Nick across the whole week. Now, this session, obviously going to be setting times and therefore a grid for race 1. What are we doing about a grid for race 2 and race 3, I wonder?
I believe they're taken from the result of races 1 and 2, respectively.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe.
See, that's why we bring you, because you've read all the regulations, the supplementary regs, and...
What else can you do in those dark winter nights?
I know. Yeah,
in preparation.
You're well researched. You're just eager for the next race. Once we went off air at Abu Dhabi, just up the road from here.
I've had enough of Christmas pudding, Johnny.
We have been home, I should stress, by the way. We haven't been here for the whole Christmas and New Year period, though that would have been lovely.
Yeah, traditional Christmas is all round for us, wasn't it, Johnny? In the dark winter nights, the chilly temperatures.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong about Christmas with palm trees. That's why we headed on.
Not that wrong at all. Across the line goes one of the Graf liveried Ligier JSP3s. These are, I like to call, the baby prototypes, introduced into the European Le Mans Series a couple of years ago. Well, not as a Ligier, actually, as a Ginetta. The Ginettas have gone away from the ELMS now. I won't delve into those politics, but we have been replaced with several Ligiers, and there are a couple of Normas now creeping into the LMP3 brigade. Just Ligiers, so here this weekend in Class P3. We do have Normas in the CN1 class, a couple of M20 FCs, in fact, run by Kraft Racing. But as Nick was alluding to, we haven't yet seen those cars out on track as part of this session. So only 4 cars circulating right now. One of the Ginetta G57s, which is labelled as an LMP2 car for this type of racing. Haven't seen Ginetta G57s in ACO LMP2 races, but that might change in the future. What we are going to see, it would seem, is a Ginetta LMP1 car this year, in fact, at Le Mans, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, we're in the WEC.
In the whole of the World Endurance
Championship, yeah.
Obviously, the entry for that's not going to be confirmed until next month.
people are worrying, Johnny, that the pull out of manufacturers. It's a cycle. If you're as old as I am, you remember these cycles in sports car racing. The manufacturers come and go, and sports car racing survives. And if you look back to what's been described as the halcyon days of sports car racing, Group C, where we had the major honours being battled out by privateers using predominantly Porsches, Porsche 962s, but they were still halcyon days. And I think, I'm positive, and I'm not just putting a positive slant on the sports car season ahead of us in 2018, I am really excited at the prospect of, the privateer teams taking it to the manufacturer Toyota team, for instance. And we are going to see, at last, a Ginetta LMP1 car competing at the highest level.
Back across the line goes Giacomo Piccini, running third fastest at the moment, and make that now fourth fastest. Now, what's changed there? Oh, Marco Ciocci's gone through for the Spirit of Race Ligier JSP3 to go second fastest, make that now third fastest, though, because Mike Simpson's just stuck in a 150.371 in his Simpson Motorsport Ginetta G57. Mike, quite a late change to the entry there. I don't think Mike's name was alongside the number 6 at the start of this week, certainly, but I saw Mike yesterday at driver's sign-on, realised he must be up to something. I don't think he's involved in the 24H race itself, although I'm probably working away at a deal even as we speak. So Mike's going to be joined by the two Aussie drivers, John Corbett and Neil Muston. John's done a lot of his racing in the UK, though, in Radicals, but he is an Aussie originally, and joined by Neil Muston, who's been doing some Michelin Road to Le Mans racing, the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year. Oh, big lock up there into turn number 1 for car 22.
That's the Speedworks Ligier P3 car. Jack Boutel, Keir Van Berlo and Konstantin Gugiev, the Russian driver, in those 3 drivers in that car. Not quite sure who's at the wheel of the 22. It's Jack Boutel,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Jack Boutel gets on in a prototype. Done all his racing, to my knowledge, in karts and then in the British F4 Championship. So knows his single-seaters, knows his downforce, therefore, but won't be used to sitting on the right-hand side of a car, because single-seaters, obviously, you sit in the middle. These are 2-seater prototypes, but it also offers a great deal of downforce. And those little F4 cars, I think, run with a 1600cc engine. Joe's shrugging at me. I'm pretty sure. I'll look that up. It's either 1600 or 1800cc engine. These things run with a 5-litre Nissan V8 in the back of them, so that will be considerably different for 21-year-old Jack.
And also the progression as a driver development concept, he's in the right direction, because these cars have got similar kind of downforce levels as Formula 3 cars. And I mean FIA Formula 3, European Championship Formula 3, not the Formula 3. It's very confusing these days, isn't it? We've got 2 Formula 3s, for instance.
Basically, from the dare UK, I say this, the UK, perhaps the same with lots of other things that we do not abide to other people's rules.
I know, I wish they did.
Hashtag Brexit.
With Formula 3.
Well, yeah, but Formula 3 everywhere else in the world is not the same as Formula 3 in the UK right now, because in the UK it is the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, which is kind of an invention of my namesake, Jonathan Palmer. And we also then have the British F4 Championship. Now, that actually is a world category. Formula 4 is a world category these days. You have Formula 4 cars everywhere. But, of course, Formula 4 was born in the UK out of Formula Ford. And F4 cars are definitely not your traditional Formula Ford Kent engine, Zetec engine type things, because they run with slicks and wings, front and rear wings.
We've just seen Mike Simpson get out of that number 4. Nick Damon's in the pit lane, I know. Nick, are you ready to pounce on the first driver of the season?
Well, possibly, but okay. I just thought I'd say there's a car in the pits, really. Oh, look, a car. Very leisurely stop, of course. This is just a driver change, giving another driver a chance to run round. Though I don't believe there's any rule about aggregate qualifying for this, as there was in Abu Dhabi. I think it's just your fastest lap by your fastest driver will set the grid for the race in a few hours' time. But they decided to give a bit more track time to either John or Neil. Didn't see who got in. They were wearing Ginetta overalls, which made me think it might be John. Mainly because I know that Neil had some very nice custom overalls when we saw him in Abu Dhabi a few weeks ago. But yeah, John seems to have skulked out to the back of the garage. Otherwise, I would have pounced on him, and I may still. And I think we might see one of the the craft racing CN cars in a minute. They are forwarding and backing, and certain the Spirit of Race car also speeds into the pits with Marco Ciocci to my left, rapes straight into his, oh no, hang on, about to be a crash there, as he almost hit the car coming out the garage. That was almost our first pit lane incident of the year, as the 97 was kind of shuffled out in a kind of embarrassed way, and almost was collected by the nose of Ciocci's car. Oh, they're trying, look, they're putting new tyres on that 48 car. So Spirit of Race looking to get pole, the 97 car just looking not to lose its nose cone.
Well, currently on the provisional pole at the moment is the number 6 Ginetta. Mike Simpson just climbing out of the car there. Now that car having been Mike Simpson being replaced in that car, I believe John Corbett, I think, was who Nick said he believes getting into that car. Currently in the fuel station, getting another qualifying batch of fuel. Out of the pits goes the number 97, Craft Racing Norma. That's the CN1 category there, being represented there by Craft Racing. And Max Bortolami, David Cristini and Regis Treff, all French lineup in the 97. The small space frame prototype there. I think that's a carbon chassis, however. The 22 Speedworks car into the pits. That's the current P3 leader, currently second overall. Jack Bootle there, we saw earlier, just locking up going into turn 1 on one of his laps. He's now climbing from that number 22 Ligier. As at the front of the head of the timing screens is the number 6 Ginetta, currently just coming up to just over 40 minutes remaining then in this, the 1 hour qualifying session for our first 3-hour prototype race. In second place is the number 22 Ligier P3 of Jack Bootle. Fastest time at the moment is a 1 minute 50.371, and it was Michael Simpson who posted that time. In second place, the number 22 Jack Bootle car, 1 minute 53.492, and then in third place is the number 44 Graf Racing Ligier, Giacomo Piccini, at the wheel of that car currently in a 1 minute 54.420 for that car. And then we've got the Spirit of Race, certainly coming here with a Spirit of Race, very spirited competition in the form of their driver lineup for the number 48. They are running a Ligier P3, Giuseppe Perezzini from Italy, Kriton Lendudis from Greece, Marco Ciocci, familiar name in the World Endurance Championship, coming 19th overall in the Ferrari there from Italy, and Rui Aguas, who will be taking part in one of the races, one of the 3 races this weekend, all the way from Portugal. They're currently 4th on a 1 minute 55.229. No other cars have posted times. In fact, 3 of our runners have not gone out yet. And the number 97 Craft Racing Norma, the last car that we saw going out for their initial exploratory lap, David Cristini. Nick?
Oh, there we are. Now, just saying, the 22 car, which Jack Bootle locked up, as you said, they now seem to be blaming the car rather than the driver, because they're having a good old look at that front left. He hadn't flat spotted either of the tyres, and now they are doing a pad change, which can just be bedding pads in, or it could be that they are slightly concerned about something about the tyres. Shall I try and have a quick word with Jack, see what's going on? He can kick the year off. Jack Bootle, well, first time in a P3. How are you enjoying it?
Well, it's not my first year. I did.
Oh, hang on, so again. Jack, back in a P3. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah, no, it's been good. First time at Dubai, so yeah, it's been mega. And to get the time we've just done, yeah, I think we've got to be proud of that.
A bit of a lock-up going into turn 1, I believe. Was that you?
Sorry?
Lock up into turn 1, was that you?
Yeah, we'll just let that one slip a bit. But yeah, it was a little bit of a lock-up. But yeah, we'll still manage to set a quick lap with it.
Okay, because the guys are working on the front, and I wonder whether you've gone, no, it was the brakes. It wasn't me, it was the brakes.
No, it was just a little silly lock-up from me, but still ended up setting a quick lap, so it didn't really cost me that much.
So going back to my original wrong question, where is the rest of your P3 experience been then?
So last year I did the English series. Okay. We ended up getting 3rd in the championship with that, winning a couple of races, and yeah, so Speedworks told me to come and do Dubai, so yeah, they brought me out here and tried to win it out here.
It's quite different, isn't it, though? Alton Park on a wet Wednesday and Dubai.
Yeah, well, the last race we did was Donington Park, and it was like torrential rain, and we won that. So yeah, coming from Donington Park with torrential rain to 20 odd degrees heat, it's a bit of a difference. But yeah, I love every minute of it. It's brilliant.
You're in the P3 category. There's 3 other cars, but there's 2 Ginettas prototypes as well, which are kind of in a different class but very similar. Are you chasing the overall win or just looking at class honours?
We've got to go for the win. And then if you don't set yourself high, then you're never going to achieve. So yeah, if we say we're going to try get as close as we can to them, I think that'll be good.
To give an idea, you've got a 3-driver lineup. Does that mean that each of you is going to do an hour in each of the 3 races, or are you going to perhaps only use 2 drivers in one race? Have you decided your driver tactics?
I have got no idea. I just get in the car and drive. That's up to my engineers. They tell me when I'm getting in the car, and just get in the car and do what I do.
See, that's the sort of bloke you want. No questions, no dodgy social media posts, just gets on the car and goes. Thank you, Joe. Cheers, mate.
So Jack Butel, and my apologies, because he did a full season of the Henderson Insurance Brokers LMP3 Cup Championship. I remembered him in F4. That was in 16. Funny how the years just suddenly disappear, isn't it? I thought that was last year. So he's moved on from single-seaters to do a year with Speedworks. 12 races, 1 win, 4 podiums, and 3rd in the championship in total with 154 points. They run on Pirelli tyres, though, in the UK Championship, so that will be a differential for him in terms of the tyres that he's running on. Hankook tyres, obviously we are powered by Hankook. Hashtag this is endurance for the Creventic promoted 24H series. Johnny Palmer, Joe Bradley and Nick Damon. And this is qualifying for race 1 today, which is the first of 3 3-hour prototype races, Proto Series races. And inside the cockpit of one of the LMP3 machines, we are now peering. Very, very tight office space in there. It looked like that driver's seat had a seat insert as well. Fascinating how you get one of these seat inserts, how you make one of these seat inserts. It basically involves the driver sitting down on top of a massive polythene bag, as far as I can gather, and then down his back or down into the polythene bag is poured this kind of mould substance, which comes out with a, is it rubber mould? I remember.
No, it's like a hard foam. It sets hard.
Yeah.
So it's a hard seat. It's not cushioned at all, but it forms around your body. Every contour of your buttock will be taken into account when you do a seat mould. So it's a custom fit. It's a bespoke custom fit.
The substance, the liquid that is poured into this polythene bag, which is effectively underneath the driver, behind the driver's back as well, that then becomes the seat, does it? You're not making a mould to then make a seat. No,
that becomes your seat. And then basically when you do that, you then have to cut bits off it so that it looks and fits properly. Because the foam, it's expandable foam. You can imagine the sort of expandable foam that you see people using in window insulations and window installations. It's a very similar thing, if not the same. It might even be the same thing. Nick Damon. Nick, you want to...
you now, Nick? Yes.
Please don't say I have seats for you. Look, lots of seats. And you can see the different designs depending on different driver it is. This man, and obviously the key point is another excellent use of duct tape. And that man, look, he's got a big crotch divider as well. So, you know, you make your seat, they're all different sizes.
Nick, can you pick that seat back up and just show the viewers on the stream that, now you see how the shoulder section of that, when that comes out of, when you first do that, that's a very raggy thing, but it's actually been cut and it's been moulded on the outside to fit inside the cockpit, if that makes sense. And obviously each specific custom built mould to, as we see there, the name of the driver, Jordan, going on to that
Sanders.
one. Jordan Sanders. So that's Jordan Sanders' seat, and that seat there has been moulded to every contour of Jordan's back and behind, making it very comfortable. Because the last thing you want is to be moving around in the seat. You need to be part of the car. and you need to be fixed to the car. And the only things that you should be able to move is your head and neck, and even that's restricted by the hands device that are commonplace these days. But your legs from your thighs downwards, and your arms from your shoulders onwards, down to your hands and your fingers, obviously.
Yeah, Jordan Sanders, just 18 years old, part of Janetta's Young Driver Development Programme. So again, somebody I'm really excited about seeing how they get on this weekend. May have some limited prototype experience, but this will be by far their highest profile prototype race, I would wager. This is the Spirit of Race Ligier JSP3, although you go in the garage and most of the mechanics will have AF Corsa branded uniforms, because AF Corsa and Spirit of Race effectively the same team. One run out of Italy, the other out of Switzerland, although much of Spirit of Race is still based in Italy. Marco Ciocci, a regular with Amato Ferrari's outfit. Marco, again, limited experience, it is my understanding, behind the wheel of a prototype. Likewise for Rui Aguas. Marco Ciocci, regular in things like the European Le Mans Series and the World Endurance Championship in Ferrari 458s more so. Done some Ferrari Challenge racing in the past as well. And Marco Ciocci will have experience of the 488 more recently. Rui Aguas, another regular WEC driver, but has dropped out of their works lineup in recent seasons. So let's see how he gets on in the number 48 car. And Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, another big name in GT racing, making the step across to LMP3 category racing this weekend, and joined by the non-pro, the gentleman driver, who is Greek, Cretan Landaudis. So Landaudis will be driver 2 in that lineup, joining Perezzini, Ciocci and Rui Aguas. First look at one of 2 Craft Racing Norma M20 FCs, and this is possibly David Christini getting out of the number 97 car. Yes, it is. So 97 now in the pit lane. Francois Kerman, though, is currently circulating in the second of the Craft Racing Normas. We still haven't seen the other Simpson Motorsport Ginetta G57. I hope there's nothing to be worried about there, because we're now virtually halfway through this qualifying session and the number 4 car hasn't appeared, nor has sadly only one of the AUH Motorsport Radicals. On earlier entry lists there were due to be as many as 3 cars from the AUH Motorsport team, but just the 177 car scheduled to be here this weekend, but also that's been a no-show so far. And the drivers for that car, Salim Al-Nusef, Mohammed Al-Nusef and Mohammed Al-Hassawi.
I wonder if there's a reason why we haven't seen the number 4, the Simpson Motorsport car. Certainly there's a Simpson Motorsport car at the head of the timing screen. Neil Muston now at the wheel of that, and he's just gone round in a 2:03 in difference to 1:50 that Michael Simpson put in. And so he's just, Neil Muston there, just building up his pace. Still got a very green track. Maybe Nick can find out if at all, whether that's a problem or whether it's just tactical, just saving their powder.
Interview,
so
important interview.
Go on.
Sorry, I overplayed my part then. Sorry, it came on the air. I'm with Mike Simpson. I've got some really bad news about number 4. Mike, tell us, what's happened to 4?
So, yeah, we've got some chassis damage to the car, so we're going to have to pull the car out. You know, we've brought everything to fix, engines and gearboxes, but we didn't think to bring a spare chassis, so very unfortunate. Don't know why. It shouldn't have happened on a curb strike, so there's been an issue there. So it's very unfortunate for the number 4 car.
That's all. So basically, the car was fine arriving here. You ran round in this morning's practice, hit a curb, and what's it done? Is it taking out one of the pickup points, or? Yeah.
So on the bottom wishbone. So it's something we've never seen before. We ran a lot of cars here last year. I've just stuck it on provisional pole in my car, and I've never seen it. You know, the chassis, the homologated one from P3, crash tested to LMP1, FIA crash test, and so not sure of the history of that car. There may have been some subsequent damage before and something's fatigue. I don't know. I'm guessing, but just very unfortunate, and I feel for the team and for the drivers.
So, given the fact the drivers are here, and obviously they've provided funds to it. Will we be some driver shuffling? We might see some of these guys in the other car for the other races.
Yeah. So we had a team chat. There's a number of options. You know, I'm more than happy to step away and support all the guys. So whether all 3 drivers may take an hour of the other car's race, subject to Neil Muston and John Corbett agreeing that, or maybe one of them, or we look to move on to Silverstone. So there's a lot of commercial options, and you know, Ginetta, we're a great company, very honest. We love our car and really passionate about our customers coming all the way to Dubai straight after the new year to race with us. So we'll, you know, there'll be no hard feelings, just a few beers in the bar tonight and regroup and move on.
Massively bad luck. Thanks for taking about it, Mike.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks, Mike. There we are. And then there were 7.
Indeed. That is all of a sudden swinging the pendulum possibly to LMP3 to take a race victory this weekend, because it only needs to get by one of the P2s now. That's Mike Simpson with his instantly recognisable Hessel accent, based very close to where Ginetta's base is, run of course by Lawrence Tomlinson, but Mike Simpson, part and parcel with Ginetta as a manufacturer, has been a development driver for all sorts of their cars through the years, including their G55 GT3 car. Has been racing in GT4 though in more recent seasons with people like Anna Valeska in the British GT Championship. So Mike, if this is Ginetta racing, Mike's probably not very far away, wherever it may be in the world, and very good of him to offer, basically, to step down, to step away from driving duties and give somebody else a try in the sole surviving G57.
And hopefully they can sort something out with regards to how they're going to shuffle their drivers around for the rest of the 3 races, and maybe we can see the drivers that are down to drive 2 cars now kind of restricted and compromise their weekend for the sake of their colleagues.
Nicely put by Mike. We'll see what commercial opportunities there are for us. Does that suggest that only one thing talks? I hope not, but 1 car and lots of drivers to try and squeeze into the number 6 machine. Steve Tandy, who was in action a month ago at the Gulf 12 Hours. In fact, did he not win in the little Aston Martin, the Generation AMR car, Steve Tandy? There were only 2 GT4s in that race. There was an Aston Martin and there was a Maserati. I'm pretty sure the Aston came out on top.
The Aston did come out on top, yeah.
So Steve Tandy,
the black one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steve Tandy, GT4 winner in the Gulf 12 Hours in December, joined by Simon Murray, another young man from South Africa, making his name in motorsport. So Simon and Jordan, exciting prospects this weekend in an LMP2. So let's hope that, you know, the 3 chaps, John, Neil, and possibly Mike, can make way for at least one of those other chaps, Steve, Simon, and/or Jordan, to get some driving in this weekend. There's the number 22 car, now driven by Dutch driver Kevon Burlo. Kevon Burlo in it with the Speedworks crew, so sharing with Jack Butel. And Russian driver Konstantin Gudkaev. And I don't think we've seen Gudkaev at the wheel of the car just yet, so a chance still for the Russian to be cycled through that number 22 car, which is now 2nd fastest. The time done a little earlier by Jack Butel, a 1:53.492. So that car is fastest in the LMP3 category from Pier Giuseppe Perezzini's Spirit of Race Ligier. That car's just been in for a stop, but is now back out again. It's on an out lap, so let's see what Perezzini can do at the wheel of that Swiss flagged car, but very much Italian mechanics looking after it. Giacomo Piccini sharing with Michael Broniszewski this weekend. Broniszewski also a winner at the Gulf 12 Hours last month, overall winner indeed, with a man who's got tremendous success in that race, Davide Rigon, winning it for a 3rd year straight with Michael Broniszewski. Broniszewski more experienced at the wheel of a GT car. He's in with Graf this weekend and sharing with long-time teammate Giacomo Piccini. We have Marc Vif, the Frenchman, Marc Vif in the 98 car for Kraft Racing, now at the wheel of the Norma M20 FC. Another one, though, for Nick to try and find out about is the sole Radical on the entry list, the Radical SR3 RSX, which is entered by AUH Motorsport. I hope very much they could be part of this weekend, being the local team, Nick.
Oddly, we're obviously already psychic, though of course it's a 1 in 7 chance. It's not too difficult. I'm with the 177 car, the very attractive Mile 7 sort of. Actually, no, after Mile 7, the Renault when it was F1 with the yellow and the light blue with blue stripes.
When Alonso was being champion.
Exactly. They were fiddling about at the back of it, and they've now fixed it. And any second now, they're warming it up. Mohammed Al Hassami will get into the car. You may be able to see him now on the camera with his black helmet with the light blue spirals, a sort of a semi-PK sort of look. Actually, not. Well, it looks a bit like it. Joe, I have those Joe's going. That looks nothing like PK's helmet. Nicholas, shut up. But it doesn't matter. I'm saying it. You're on the radio. I'm on the TV. That's a helmet that looks nothing like Nelson Piquet's in any way whatsoever, apart from its helmet shape. So the car's about to go out. I think they had they were doing a little bit of an engine check on the. I think they're having a misfire because they're playing with the electrics. They also did a small adjustment on the roll bar, but that may have been for access, and they also adjusted the rear wing. So they've done a few setup changes. Hassami is just being belted in, getting an extra tight pull down on his lap belts there, getting ready to go. Of course, the interesting about the Radicals is it's actually a proper two-seater. You can see this, Seb. It's actually a proper two-seater. You can actually get another person in. Obviously, according to Le Mans rules, most of these prototypes are supposed to have a second seat, but that's become, for the riding mechanic from 1929, but that's all become very sort of vestigial. That one has a proper second seat, and put it this way, whilst old John would not have fitted in, new John certainly would.
I've actually sat in the passenger seat of a Radical.
Have you?
It's quite comfortable. Yeah.
I would imagine it grabs your attention as well, depending on who's driving next to you.
Yeah, well, I got a turn of driving it as well, so it was like payback time. Nick said they were fiddling around with the back of that Radical. It'd be interesting to find out what they were fiddling with, which might give an indication of why they are almost 40 minutes late to this party. We're into the coming up to the final 20 minutes of this qualifying session, and just glad to see the Kuwaiti drivers getting out in that car, Johnny.
Great to have 3 Kuwaiti drivers with us indeed. Mohammed Al Hassawi is one of them, and joined by the Al Nusif family, Mohammed and Salem Al Nusif being the 3 drivers from Kuwait, as we say, although it is... no, I beg your pardon, I thought that the entry, yes, the entry is United Arab Emirates, in fact, but so the AUH Motorsport is very much an UAE team, but the 3 drivers from Kuwait. So great to have those guys taking part in, we hope, all 3 races. Just a tentative outlap for Mohammed Al Hassawi, and then he'll maybe give it the beans on the next few laps. The Radical RS3, the smaller of the Radicals, but still a decent amount of power beneath that right foot, and of course a fantastic power to weight ratio. They weigh next to nothing.
What this small field does do, Johnny, you know, you only need let's go to Nick before I start on that point. Nick,
I'd like to point out the first episode of many episodes of CSI Dubai has now been carried out, and the reason that the Radical was late was not electrical. Got it completely wrong. They had a leak in the differential, and they had 2 choices. Mohammed told me they could either have topped it up and gone out for qualifying, or replaced the seal and then gone out for qualifying. And as they're the only Radical, they thought, well, whatever, we'll replace the seal of the differential and then see what time's left and go out. So that was a bit of a leak in the rear end, sorted out, they're away.
Thanks, Nick, and that gives me a lovely segue as to exactly what I was about to say. Because we've only got 6 cars in the field, because we've got very small fields. 7. What did I say? 6. Oh, well, let's hope that prophecy doesn't come true. But with only 7 cars in the field and only 3 cars in the CN class, it's worth, if we had a leak on the differential during the race, it's worth, doesn't matter what's going to befall these cars, it's going to be worth repairing them and getting back out there, because you stand a chance of a good finish. So it's dragging a positive there, kicking and screaming from a small field negative. Yeah, Nick?
Sorry, I just love that, because you just called it the CNN class.
I did.
So it's going to be a 24-hour anti-Donald Trump car.
Probably not. What does CN stand for, by the way? Does anybody know?
It's the old
I know it's the old
S2000 series, isn't it? Which used to have Honda engines in the back of it. But I don't know what it stands for.
We need someone from Creventic to answer that one.
Do you know what, actually, I don't think I can find out from the guys who are running it.
No.
Have you got the internet in there yet?
Yes.
Joe's got some.
Wikipedia it then. That's what we're here for.
Joe's got some internet, and a very kind man came in, took his phone away for a few minutes, inserted some kind of password, then brought it back again. But the password hasn't been made public to you and I. So therefore, my phone is reliant on saved web pages that I was doing at the very front of the grandstand, where I can get a little bit of Wi-Fi. So apologies if we're a bit slow on the uptake as far as your Twitterage is concerned, and other social media as well, at RSL Studio, to get involved with our conversation and our broadcast. You can also send your tweets to @BlackpoolJohnny and @Bradders3078, at RC Racing as well, because Nick may be close enough to the paddock to be able to get some connectivity. We will solve that, obviously, for the race later on today.
I've got the answer to Nick's query of where the term group, or where the group CN came from. It's a category of motorsport introduced by the FIA in the early 90s for sports car racing, which we obviously knew about. And there is obviously a huge amount of technical regulations, maximum of 6 cylinders, maximum of 3-litre drivetrain, blah blah blah. The history of, oh hang on, lost it again.
But was there not a CN Wolf as well?
Well, that's just a manufacturer, isn't it? That's just
the CN was surely the name of the category, though, rather than Wolf is the manufacturer, but they called it a CN Wolf because it ran in CN. Yeah,
I've got a huge list of car manufacturers that have produced cars for the CN class, Wolf being one of them in 2009, WFR, Tatus, Tiga, Radical, Acela, Norma. I mean, Acela, former Formula 1 manufacturer, Norma's, we were due to see a Norma here, but we're not. Lucchini, we've got 2 Normas.
2 craft racing.
Yeah, of course, we've got 2 Normas here. Where am I getting that? I'm thinking of something else. Ligier, of course, I've produced and it's basically an open-top sports prototype, isn't it? Like an S2000.
Open top, yes, that's key, because of course the modern prototypes are all closed cockpit. Here's Nick again.
It's been going for years, that car. Even when I first started doing this thing for Radio Le Mans, this thing for Radio Le Mans back in 2007. Often for the old Le Mans series, they'd have the CN class support. And one of the main drivers at that point, or one of the guys who kind of came up through there, was, now I've forgotten his surname, but it's Mike, who ran... Mike Newton, yeah, who then bought, thank you so much, the younger brain by 20 years, off you go. Mike Newton used to run it, and of course he then kind of went full circle after going to P2, and then of course bought out the Tiga brand.
Yes.
And they're trying to relaunch the CN, which has its own series, and most of the time runs in the V2V class around with that one. So you see a lot of CN cars in the V2V class. And as Joe says, there are masses of chassis, all made in the last 15 years, and most of them aren't carbon, so they haven't got the problems with unknown carbon fatigue. And they tend to run, I say when we were doing it, the engine of choice was the Honda 2-litre. Now, whether that's now changed, I don't know. So I think it's probably a relatively inexpensive class, if anything, in motorsport, inexpensive to get involved with.
And of course, Radical bringing in the bike engine, the bike sports engine prototypes. Radical's now producing carbon chassis, moving away from tube space frame chassis. Obviously, perhaps the biggest, highest performing tube frame sports cars are what we would be more familiar with the Daytona prototypes. The Daytona prototypes, certainly the first iteration of tube frame sports cars, but very, very cheap to manufacture, very cheap to maintain. Anything that has carbon fibre on it, then add maybe 2 or 3 noughts to the end of any kind of costings. And the whole point of the V2V series was low-cost endurance sports car racing, wasn't it? And these cars being the cars of choice, the open-top sports prototypes that we're seeing in our CN class here. Unfortunately, only 3 of them out this weekend.
But obviously, if you were regulars at Le Mans, well, during the start of Audi's massive success at the start of the 2000s, you know, those cars were open top, the R10s, the early R15s, I seem to remember as well. But then there was a change in the regulations as far as the pit stops were concerned. Basically, you would run an open top part just to be able to get a driver in and out very swiftly indeed. Then they changed the regulations, which meant that you couldn't fuel the car and do a driver change at the same time. So it was a no-brainer to go closed cockpit, because a closed cockpit car just runs through the air that much more slickly from an aerodynamic point of view. But it's great to have some of the slightly older looking, I suppose you could argue, open top machines, and quite a bit more thought needs to be put in as far as the overhead protection is concerned. I noticed that the Normas run with a very large rollover bar, roll cage effectively, which is just above the driver's head, which will help in, heaven forbid, a moment where one of these cars ends up on its roof or upside down, for want of a better phrase. There goes, well, where it should be going a little more swiftly, the Graf car. Now, is that the Giacomo Puccini machine? Yes, we only have one Graf Ligier, so that's got to be car 44, which is slowing. Now, I'm hoping they're maybe doing some kind of fuel run on that, perhaps to work out how much it takes to empty the fuel, because it's still running, maybe just on the reserve tank to get it back again. Car 44 looking very, very slow into the hairpin at turn 14. Dubai Autodrome doesn't have any names for corners, other than sort of colloquial tags that have been given. Oh, 44's just fired back into life again.
It's gone past the pit entrance, Johnny, and it looked as though he was maybe about to fire into a qualifying run, and he'd just been conserving his tyres somewhat. Yeah. He's about to go by underneath us, and that certainly sounded like a car on full song, number 22. So he was maybe just backing off on that lap that we thought he was crawling round with, God forbid, a problem, and that we lose another car from this field. But it looks to me, and if I use my binoculars to see across, I can see that beautiful turns 8 and 9, which is one constant radius banked curve, and that number 22 just coming into view now, hopefully there. We'll see if he's up to racing speed. Yes, he is. He's just coming through turn 7 now, tight right-hander, and then through a bit of a kink through turn 8, and then into the bank turn, and the car there hugging the curb on the inside of the turn, just getting a late apex, firing the car out onto the back straight, all important back straight, leading down to turn 10. And the car is on full song, so the good news is the number 22, Marco Ciocci, just, it is number, it's Kay Van Berlo now at the wheel of that car, so that's had a driver change, Johnny, it looks like.
The slow car was 44.
Are you sure it was not the 22?
No.
Ah, it was the 44. Right, so who's in the wheel of that? It's Giacomo Puccini.
Yeah.
So he was just getting into firing himself up for a qualifying run. Currently in 4th place on a 1:53.797. Fastest time in the P3 class, 1:53.492. So he hasn't got that much to make up, a few tenths of a second to improve his position in class and move onto the front row of the grid overall.
I think Giacomo was possibly also just dropping back very slightly from cars ahead of him. I mean, you might think only 7 cars out in the session. Actually, only 5 cars circulating right now, with 2 in the garages. So traffic is going to be at a premium, you would say. Chances of encountering another car on a fast lap, relatively slim. But it might have been that if Giacomo Puccini had a couple of slower cars, CM1 cars ahead of him, he was just easing back, and then, as we say, fired into life coming out of 15 and into 16. 16 is a very tight right-hander actually to bring you onto the main straight, but crucial to get a good run through there. It's slightly downhill, slightly banked as well, but that is onto not quite the longest straight of this Dubai Autodrome circuit, because the back straight, as we often coin it, although it's not a true back straight, it kind of goes on the diagonal from turn 9 and 10, but 9 to 10 is longer for my money than the run from 16 down to turn number 1. There is a car in one of the garages, and Nick Damon's not very far away. Was that the Craft Racing Norma that was being assessed, perhaps, Nick, by the team? They were certainly taking an engine cover off that car.
Hello.
Hello, Nick.
It's very long delay in these faders going up, and I'm going, hello, what, who, when, what?
No, that was delaying your microphone firing up, I think, because we didn't hear you off air at all.
Right, I should go and have a word with Gertz then.
You love doing that, don't you? Gert's doing a wonderful job, as all the rest of our technical
the whole
team,
of 022 are heroes, obviously. However, turn the fader on.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, as you can see, this is 97 here. They've obviously done a few laps, and it looks like it's effectively just finished for the day as far as qualifying concerned. Just a simple removal of the front cover and the rear cover. One thing I do notice is obviously the rules have changed, because that's a full carbon chassis, so the modern CN car is a carbon car, whereas certainly there was a rule for a long time. I think it may have even been that Wolf that changed the rule, the later rules, that they weren't going to have carbon chassis, but obviously they have now embraced that in the CN world. Perhaps that's the way the world's going. No one can work with alloy space frame tubes anymore. It's welding's very difficult, but getting an autoclave up a bit easier. And as you can see, it's just a monitor looking at the race. Obviously starts off in just under 3 hours, and they're going to make sure the car is healthy and ready to go after setting its qualifying time.
Excellent. So one or two spares being brought out from the drawers there in readiness to maybe switch one or two of the wearing parts over.
Still a lot of miles to go though, Johnny. 9 hours of racing, and there is no reason whatsoever to put more stress on any of those components in that car. We've got 1 3-hour race coming off this afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock local time, taking us through till 6 p.m. and then very early start in the morning. So if you do have major problems after the first 3-hour run, you maybe have to do an all-nighter, and that's something that you want to try and avoid, because you don't want to go into tomorrow where we've got 2 3-hour races, which will take us from, I think we're starting the first race at 9 a.m. and we're finishing the second race at 6 p.m. so that's a full day's racing. You're not going to have much time, and plus, you're going to want the car to be in tip-top shape.
Although there's a heck of a lot more time from the end of today's race through to the start of tomorrow's race compared to the time between races 2 and 3. That's only 3 hours. So if you have a big incident or a major failure in race 2 of the 3, you're looking at trying to fix that somewhere between 12:15 by the time everything's done and dusted, and 3 o'clock, which is the start time. But the car will need to be on the grid well ahead of that 3 p.m. start. It'll be a rolling start for all 3 races, as is always the case with endurance type racing. These cars not built for a standing start. And we hope that the 7 cars that are part of this session can do the distance. Down to just one LMP2 car though now, the Ginetta G57 from Simpson Motorsport, the number 6 car, driven most recently by John Corbett, and that's still the car that's fastest, by the way. You would expect a P2 to be quicker than the P3s and the CN1s. Mike Simpson set the time quite early on in this hour-long session, a 1:50.371, and that was done on lap 4. I make it, yeah, lap 4 of a number of laps now completed. And leaves that number, oh no, I can't tell you because the column's not been selected by the timeservice.nl crew, but they will have everything in hand. By the way, you can check out all the results from free practice qualifying and the races as well via the 24H series website. There's a link there to the timing system, timeservice.nl, and thanks to Harold and to Rob for all their hard work. Are they just a 2-man team this weekend, or they've got probably plenty more, because they won't be able to do a 24-hour race, just the 2 of them?
You sure?
Well, no, certainly,
Rob do
certainly
it.
They have done that in the past, but normally it's 3 or 4 people that would be employed at timeservice.nl. I'll check with Rob Udelutikhaus when we next see him. Mohammed Al-Hassawi, picking up speed all the time, managed to do this car's fastest lap last time around, a 2 minutes 7.430. This is a CN1 car, so the Radical SR3 in its sky blue and yellow colours, really trying to get closer to the Norma's pace, Norma's plural, of craft racing. The fastest of those cars has done a 1:55.5, so we're a good 12 seconds off the speed there for the AUH Motorsport crew, this being a bike-engined machine. Both Normas are now being put away for lunchtime. Yeah,
and race preparation going on the 2 leading CN cars, CN class cars. Mohammed Al-Hassawi does look like he's just bedding that car in and finding where the grip is. Nick, hang on, Nick. We'll come to you now.
Oh, there is a cracking delay, isn't there? Just basically echoing what you're saying, which is that everyone's gone to lunch, really. This is the one of the cars we've not seen close up, which is the Graf racing machine. I don't know if it's come the very short 90-minute run up from Abu Dhabi, where they're running just before Christmas. I think it probably has, because I think it's got a very similar set of sponsors to what we saw in that other Middle East race. Just two drivers, though, and that's Giacomo Puccini and Michael Broncheski. Broncheski was in the winning car, but that was a GTE Ferrari in Abu Dhabi, and Giacomo Puccini won the previous year at Abu Dhabi, but this year it was his brother who got. Only one Puccini apparently is allowed to drive at Abu Dhabi, and it was Andrea who drove last time, and that car also gets pushed into the shade. And my last mention of the word Abu Dhabi in this particular broadcast from Dubai is, my God, the Abu Dhabi pit lane is such a good idea, because this is a bit sweaty in the sun. And you can explain what I mean, Joe.
Yeah, well, at the Yas Marina circuit, it's been designed where the pit lane does not have the sun shining on it at any time during the day, which is a very good idea in the Middle East. But Nick, I've got to remind you that it is January, and you need to soak that up, so because you'll soon be back in the UK, where it's a balmy 5 degrees at the moment, I'm told, and the possibility of snow.
Are you going for sunburn again? Are you going for sunburn again, Joe?
I'm going for lobster.
After you broiled yourself with half an hour sunbathing last time.
Yes,
you've got 2 whole days off in between the 2 events here.
Oh, I'm bound to go red, Nick.
You'll be pinker than an Essex man who's been down to Brighton on a sunny July day.
Yes, I'll be like a little matchstick with a red head.
Just drop me clipboard. Things are just going from bad to worse.
I'm surprised you haven't lost your clipboard. No, you've been going an hour.
That is true, actually. I put coffee on it. I got a free coffee earlier, so I'd like to say hurrah for the people who gave me that.
Nick, so far this weekend, has broken a rucksack. He's left his sunglasses at home, and he's left his ear defenders back in the hotel room.
And was completely oblivious to the fact he wasn't in possession of his car keys.
And don't forget car hire gate.
Car hire gate is another one that we're not going to mention.
That's
that
as far as it's going on air.
Yes, I still don't know how we're going to get everyone's luggage.
Car hire gate is basically, booking a car for a day before we needed it, and then
apparently it's also known as doing a haven.
Yes, he did pioneer that.
There is 1 minute to go of qualifying, and a grid has very nearly been formed for the first of 3 Proto Series races, kicking off the 2018 Proto Championship, which is going to go to places like Portimao, to the COTA circuit in Austin, Texas. We've also got Proto races arranged for the Silverstone weekend. 12 hours of Silverstone and a 24 hours of Silverstone coming your way in March, and the Protos are going to be part of the GT race, which is going to be a split race at Silverstone. Also, Proto races arranged for Navarra in Spain, and as I say, 3x3 at Portimao in the middle part of July. 2
championships this year, Johnny. The Championship of the Continents. This one is included in that. This is the first round of the overall championship, and it is the first round of the Championship of the Continents. The second round will be at Portimao, and the third round will be at COTA. And now the European Prototype Championship will be the 12 hours of Silverstone in the second weekend of March, the 12 hours of Navarra in Spain in the third weekend of April, and we will be at Portimao for the final round of the European Championship for our prototypes, which is also round 2 of the Championship of the Continents. So we are starting off the Championship of the Continents here for our 24H Proto Series.
Checkered flag being waved, but actually only going to be waved in the direction of Creton Lendoudis, because Lendoudis is the only driver still out there for Spirit of Race, number 48, and Lendoudis looking to try and go a bit quicker than the other LMP3 car. There are 2 other LMP3 cars in that division. Speedworks Motorsport hanging on by their fingernails to provisional pole position here. Kay van Berlo, the Dutchman, last to drive the Speedworks Ligier, but Creton Lendoudis might think about staying out. No indication that he's going to go faster than the 153.5 that the number 48 car has already set. Lendoudis, remember,
is the pole car. He didn't set the pole.
Remember, he is the non-pro driver. Lendoudis over the line, and the 153.530 will remain the fastest time that car did, because Lendoudis did a 159.601. Here's Nick Damon with the man that set pole position.
Actually, John, was it you who set the fastest time?
Unfortunately not.
Shall we pretend it was? Well done.
We could indeed. Maybe I had the driver setting on the wrong number.
Seriously, though, obviously a great car, the G57. Is it fun round Dubai?
It is fantastic. I usually drive a P3 car, so to jump in one of these is like a new world. And we just put some new tyres on for that quali. And the grip and the speed you can carry through these big high G corners is incredible. It's just so much fun, it's not funny.
So basically the difference with the Ginetta is just it's got more downforce, or is it a bit more grunt as well?
Yes, I think it's got another 100 horsepower, 80 horsepower more. So it's got a lot more grunt, it's got a bit of traction control on the rear end, and it's got a lot more downforce. So yeah, it's an amazing car to drive.
And you're the only one now in the field, so should be easy to win the race.
Look, unfortunately, we were looking forward to, you know, whipping the pants off our number 2 car. Would have been a lot of fun, but now I've just got to try and outdo my teammate, which is a difficult task.
John, thanks very much. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you on the grid in about 2.5 hours' time. Well, that's your pole car in marvellous carbon.
Yeah, and the time set by Mike Simpson quite a bit earlier on in the session on lap 4 for the man from Yorkshire. But it remains to be seen whether Mike Simpson will take part in any of the races. It might be that he steps aside to allow Steve Tandy, Simon Murray, Jordan Sanders to have a chance to drive a car in anger in the races. But congratulations to Mike Simpson, Neil Muston, John Corbett for taking pole in LMP2. In LMP3, it was the 22 car taking pole for Speedworks Motorsport. And in CN1, Craft Racing with a 1-2 finish in qualifying. Join us later on then for a United Arab Emirates time, 3 p.m. race start. But we'll be doing the build-up a good half an hour before that. From Joe Bradley, from Nick Damon and Johnny Palmer, it's bye for now.